The house at 414 Caldwell Circle had been empty for 61 years. Every house on Caldwell Circle had been empty for 61 years. Every house on every street in Arniston, Alaska, had been empty for 61 years, because no one had ever moved in. The town was built in 1963, furnished in 1964, and abandoned by the Development Authority before a single resident arrived. That's what the contract said. That's what the pre-hire briefing confirmed. So I need someone to explain to me why there are children's growth marks on the inside of the pantry door at 414 Caldwell Circle, pencil lines, dates, a name, for a girl who grew up in a house that was never occupied. I need someone to explain why the most recent mark is dated 2024. I should tell you how I got here. My name is Dean Kohler. I'm 38. I'm a demolition site foreman, not the guy with the wrecking ball, the guy who plans which walls come down in which order so the ceiling doesn't kill somebody. I've worked commercial teardowns for 11 years across the lower 48. Strip malls, condemned apartment blocks, old hospitals. My wife Renee teaches 3rd grade in Bozeman. Our twin boys are 7. I took the Arniston contract because it paid $162,000 for 14 weeks of work, and because we needed the money in a way I didn't want to explain to her a third time. The contract came through Peterson Holt, a mid-size salvage firm out of Fairbanks that handles government decommission work. They'd been awarded the Arniston demolition by the state after the land reverted from federal holding. The job was straightforward on paper: survey, document, and systematically demolish a 209-structure planned community built during the Cold War and never occupied. Recover salvageable materials. Grade the site. The state wanted the land cleared for a mining access corridor. There were 12 of us on the crew. I want to say that clearly, because what's happening here is not happening to a person alone in the dark. It's happening in broad daylight, well, the 22 hours of daylight you get up here in June, to a dozen professionals with families and truck payments and building certifications. We are not isolated. We are not afraid of empty houses. We tear them down for a living. We arrived June 2nd. Peterson Holt had established a base camp a quarter-mile outside the town boundary, temporary modular housing, a mess trailer, equipment yard, satellite internet. Everything functional and modern. Our foreman, my direct superior, was Gil Teague, 54, ex-Army Corps of Engineers, who ran demolition sites the way surgeons run operating rooms: checklist, sequence, verification, execution. Nothing romantic. Nothing wasted. Arniston itself sat in a wide gravel valley between two ridges that blocked it from the nearest highway. You came in on an unpaved access road that Peterson Holt had regraded for the heavy equipment. The town appeared around a bend, all at once, like a photograph slid in front of your face. And it looked wrong. Not dramatically wrong. Not horror movie wrong. It looked like a town that had been finished yesterday and no one had showed up yet. The roofs were intact. The streets were clear. The paint on the houses, identical mid-century ranches in rotating earth tones, had faded, obviously, but hadn't peeled the way 61 years of subarctic weather should have destroyed it. The windows weren't broken. That was the first thing every single member of my crew mentioned independently. 209 houses, exposed to decades of freeze-thaw cycling, wind, animals, and not a single broken window. Might be the glass, said Carla Voss, our structural assessor. She was examining a pane at 102 Pioneer Way on our first walkthrough. Military spec, maybe. Laminated. Gil noted it and moved on. We had a schedule. The pre-demolition survey took 6 days. Each house had to be entered, assessed for hazardous materials, photographed, and cleared for teardown. We worked in teams of 3, moving street by street. My team was Carla and a younger guy named Tomas Reyes, who ran the material inventory and had a habit of narrating his observations into a handheld recorder. I mention this because his recordings are part of what I'm trying to explain. The houses were furnished. Completely. Every one of them. The 1963 development plan had included full furnishing as part of the federal contract. The idea was that families would arrive to a move-in ready community. Beds were made. Dishes were in cabinets. There were books on shelves. Canned goods, swollen and long expired, sat in pantries. Everything was covered in a fine, even layer of dust. Except where it wasn't. The first discrepancy was small. Carla found it on day 3 in the kitchen at 207 Birch Lane. A coffee mug sitting on the counter, clean, with no dust inside it. The exterior was as coated as everything else, but the interior was spotless, as if someone had washed it and set it back precisely where it had been. Condensation pattern, maybe, she said. Sealed environment, temperature differential keeps the inside surface clear. She photographed it and moved on. The second one was mine. At 118 Pioneer Way, I was checking the basement for foundation integrity when I found laundry in the washing machine. Not the crisp, new, never-used clothes that were folded in the bedroom drawers upstairs. Worn clothes. Soft. Faded at the collars. A woman's blouse with a small mend at the elbow, done by hand with thread that didn't quite match. The machine itself was a 1963 Kenmore, never connected to water. The hookups were capped, but the clothes inside were dry and folded, not crumpled, as if someone had finished a load, removed it, folded each item, and placed the stack back inside the drum. I told Gil. He said, "Document it. It's not asbestos and it's not our problem." Day 4, we start on Caldwell Circle. We started on Caldwell Circle. There were 18 houses on that street, arranged in a cul-de-sac. Same model as the rest, 3-bedroom ranch, attached single-car garage, partial basement. They were slightly larger than the Pioneer Way houses, designated in the original plans as family premium units. Whatever that meant in 1963. 414 was the 6th house I entered that day. I was alone. Carla was finishing hazmat checks 2 doors down, and Tomas was inventorying a garage. I came in through the front door, which opened smoothly on oiled hinges. All the doors in Arniston opened smoothly, which Carla had attributed to the extreme dryness of the air up here. I'd accepted that. The living room was standard. Couch, armchair, television console, shelf of books. Kitchen to the right. 3 bedrooms down a hallway to the left. I went to the kitchen first, checking for the asbestos-containing floor tiles that we'd found in some of the other units. The pantry door was open. I stepped in to check the shelving mounts. We were salvaging hardware where possible, and that's when I saw the marks. Pencil lines on the inside of the door frame. 7 of them, at increasing heights. Next to each, a date and a name. Lily, August 1998. Lily, August 1999. Lily, August 2000. Lily, August 2001. Lily, August 2002. Lily, August 2003. Lily, August 2004. The first mark was about 3 feet off the ground. The last was about 4'7". A girl growing up. Measured every August. From age 6 or 7 to about 13. In a house that was never occupied. In a town that was never lived in. Built in 1963. I stood there for a while. I put my hand on the lowest mark. The pencil was real. I could feel the slight groove where it had been pressed into the wood. I took photographs from 3 angles. I measured the heights with my tape and wrote them in my field notebook. Then I checked the rest of the house. The master bedroom showed standard condition, made bed, empty closet, sealed air. But the second bedroom, the one that would have been a child's room, had a curtain that wasn't original. It was a pale yellow fabric with small blue flowers, hung on a tension rod that wasn't part of the original window hardware. Behind it, the glass was intact but the sill showed faint discoloration, the kind you get from years of a potted plant sitting in the same spot. And in the third bedroom, which was configured as a small study, there was a book on the desk that was not from 1963. It was a paperback copy of Where the Wild Things Are, published originally in the 60s, yes, but this edition, I checked the copyright page, was a 1988 reprint. The spine was cracked. The pages were soft with use. Someone had read this book dozens of times. I brought Gil to the house that afternoon. He looked at the growth marks. He looked at the curtain. He looked at the book. "Is this in the original furnishing inventory?" he asked. I checked. The 1964 furnishing manifest for 414 Caldwell Circle listed, 1 twin bed frame, 1 twin mattress, 1 desk, child size, 1 chair, 1 shelf unit, 1 curtain set, white, standard. No books itemized for the children's room. No yellow curtains with blue flowers. "Then someone's been in here," Gil said flatly. "Squatters. Doesn't change the tear-down schedule. Document, photograph, and if you find anything that looks like it belongs to a person who might come back for it, flag it. We're not a lost and found, but we're not monsters either. Squatters." That was the explanation. It made sense, as much sense as anything made, and we moved forward. Days 5 through 8 proceeded normally. Demolition prep continued. Equipment was staged. The first structures scheduled for teardown were on the far end of Pioneer Way, the least complex units. But I want to be clear about something. I accepted Gil's explanation at the time because I wanted to. Because the alternative required me to think about it more than I was willing to. Here is what I did not say to Gil that afternoon. The dust. Every surface in 414 Caldwell Circle was coated in the same fine, undisturbed layer as every other house in Arniston. The floor showed no footprints except mine. The book on the desk had dust on its cover that matched the dust on the shelf. The curtain had dust in its folds. The growth marks on the pantry door had dust settled into their pencil grooves. If someone had been here, measuring a child year after year for 7 years, they had left no evidence of entry, no evidence of presence, no disruption in 61 years of accumulated stillness. Or they had been here so long ago that the dust had resettled perfectly. But the book was from 1988. And the growth marks went to 2004. I didn't know what to do with this. So I did what the job required, I documented it and moved on. Day 9 was the first teardown. 101 Pioneer Way. I ran the sequence: interior strip, roof removal, wall demolition, foundation break, hull out. My crew worked efficiently. The house came down in 6 hours. Standard materials throughout: wood frame, plaster walls, asbestos-free tile, copper wiring, salvageable. Nothing unusual in the structure itself. But Tomas came to me at lunch, holding his recorder. "Hey, Dean. You got a minute? I want you to hear something." He'd been recording his material inventory narration inside 103 Pioneer Way that morning, the house next to the one we'd just demolished. Standard practice, he walks through, describes what he sees, notes salvageable materials. He played it back for me. His voice, clear and professional, living room, southeast corner. One couch, original upholstery, non-salvageable. One side table, wood, salvageable. One lamp, ceramic base, non-salvageable. Bookshelf, 6 shelves, hardwood, salvageable. Books, approximately 40 volumes, mixed fiction and reference, no value. Then a pause. Then his voice again, but quieter, as if he'd moved to the other side of the room. There's a second shelf here that wasn't in my notes from Thursday." I looked at him. "You surveyed that house on Thursday?" "I did. 6-shelf unit against the south wall, 40-ish books." "That's what I wrote down. That's what I just said on the recording. But when I got back into this morning, there's a second bookshelf. North wall. Same wood. Same style. But the books on it are different." "Different how?" "They're newer. Paperbacks, mostly. 90s, 2000s. One of them's a Harry Potter book, Goblet of Fire. Fourth one came out in 2000. We went back to 103 together. The second bookshelf was there. I'd walked through this house on day 2 and I had not seen it, but I also hadn't been looking for it. It could have been there. I couldn't swear it wasn't. My survey notes said, living room, standard furnishing, no hazmat concerns, clear for demo. I hadn't itemized furniture. That was Tomas's job. But Tomas had itemized it on Thursday. 1 shelf. And now there were 2. Could have missed it, Tomas said, but his voice was flat. He didn't believe that, and I could tell. I photographed the second shelf and its contents. 12 books, all published between 1994 and 2003. All well-read, spines cracked, pages dog-eared. One had a name written inside the front cover in careful, rounded handwriting. Lily Wynn. If found, please return to 414 Caldwell Circle. I went cold in a way that had nothing to do with Alaska. That afternoon, I pulled every survey photograph we'd taken of 103 Pioneer Way. Our documentation was thorough. We photographed each room from multiple angles for the hazmat and salvage records. I found the living room shots from day 2. 1 bookshelf. South wall. No shelf on the north wall. Just blank plaster. I compared it to what was in the room now. 2 bookshelves. The wall showed no marks from installation, no fresh drill holes. The shelf sat flush against the plaster as if it had always been there. The dust on its top surface was even. Undisturbed. I showed Gil the photographs. Before and after. He looked at them for a long time. "That isn't possible," he said. "I know. We photographed this room 4 days ago." "I know." He sat back. I could see him running through explanations, someone on the crew moving furniture between houses, a documentation error, a mislabeled photo. I'd already run through all of them. "The photos are geotagged," I said. "You can check." He did. The day 2 photo was tagged at 103 Pioneer Way. The new photo was tagged at 103 Pioneer Way. Same room. Different contents. Gil made a decision then that I respected at the time and have questioned every day since. He told me to accelerate the teardown schedule for Pioneer Way. Get the houses down. Stop surveying them twice. One pass, then demolition. Whatever was happening with the furnishings wasn't relevant to the structural work. We're here to knock these down, he said. Not to figure out why some Cold War furniture is rearranging itself. Get Pioneer Way cleared by Friday. We pushed. 3 houses a day. My crew worked hard and clean, and by Thursday we'd taken down 8 structures on Pioneer Way. Standard demo. No anomalies in the physical structures themselves. Whatever was appearing inside the houses wasn't structural, it was domestic. Lived in. Personal. But each house we entered for its final pre-demo sweep had more than it had contained during the original survey. Some of it was small. A different soap dish in a bathroom. A calendar on a kitchen wall that hadn't been there before, a 1997 calendar, open to March, with a dentist appointment written on the 14th. Some of it was significant. House 109 had a full set of family photographs on the hallway wall, framed, hung with picture wire, showing a man, a woman, and 2 children aging over what appeared to be 15 years of posed holiday portraits. The people in the photographs were dressed in styles ranging from the early 80s to the mid-90s. They were standing in front of House 109. You could see the house number on the porch post behind them. These photographs had not been there on day 2. I had walked that hallway. My boots had made the only prints in the dust on the hardwood floor. I was certain. We tore that house down at 2 p.m. on Thursday. The photographs went into the salvage dumpster. I fished one out when no one was looking and put it in my jacket. I don't know why I did that. That night, at base camp, I called Renee. The satellite connection was clear for once. How's it going up there? Fine. Ahead of schedule. The boys want to talk to you. I talked to Lucas and Micah for 10 minutes about a frog they'd found in the backyard. Normal conversation. Normal life. I held onto it like a rope. After they went to bed, Renee came back on. You sound weird, Dean. Just tired. Long days. Is the job what you expected? More or less. I didn't tell her about the growth marks or the bookshelves or the photographs. I didn't tell her because I didn't have an explanation, and Renee is the kind of person who needs explanations to feel safe. I married her for that. It steadies me. But right now, steady wasn't what I had to offer. Friday, we finished Pioneer Way. 18 houses, demolished, hauled, graded. From the access road, you could see the empty lots now, just gravel pads where foundations had been. Clean work. And from those empty lots, you could see the rest of Arniston, Birch Lane, Spruce Court, Caldwell Circle, and the 6 other streets of identical mid-century ranches sitting in their perfect, impossible preservation. I want to describe what I felt looking at those remaining houses. It wasn't fear, exactly. It was something closer to the feeling you get when you realize you've been pronouncing someone's name wrong for years and no one corrected you. A structural embarrassment. A sense that the ground you're standing on has been the wrong ground the whole time, and you just didn't notice. Because here is what was becoming clear to me, even if I couldn't say it out loud yet. We were not demolishing empty houses. We were demolishing houses that had been lived in, extensively, domestically, over decades, by people who could not have been there. And every day we delayed, the houses contained more evidence of habitation. As if our presence, our attention, our documentation, our intention to tear them down, was accelerating something. As if the town was filling up with the lives it had been meant to hold, but hadn't, and it was doing it now, with a kind of urgency that felt responsive to us. I didn't say this to anyone on the crew. But on Saturday morning, Carla said something to me that told me I wasn't the only one thinking it. "Dean, have you noticed the gardens?" I hadn't. I'd been focused on interiors. But she walked me to the side yard of 206 Birch Lane, and she was right. The garden beds, which had been bare gravel and dead soil in every photograph from our initial site survey, now had plants in them. Not weeds. Not wild growth. Cultivated plants. Perennials, trimmed and shaped. A rose bush with 3 blooms on it. In Alaska. In a town that had been empty for 61 years. Those weren't there on day one, Carla said. Her voice was completely level. Carla was not a person who panicked, and she was not panicking now. She was making a statement of fact and waiting for me to confirm or deny it. "No," I said. "They weren't." "Okay." She walked away. I stood there looking at the roses. They were a deep red, fully open, healthy. The soil around their base was dark and moist. It looked tended. That was the moment I started keeping a separate log. Not my official field notebook, that went to Gill and then to Peterson Holt. A personal record. Dates, times, locations, descriptions. What was there before? What was there now? When the change was noticed. I started that log on June 14th. It's June 29th now. I have 43 entries. The pattern is this: the closer we get to demolishing a house, the more fully inhabited it becomes. The effect isn't instantaneous. It builds over days. First it's small domestic objects, a different towel, a mug, a pair of shoes by the door. Then it's structural additions, curtains, shelves, pictures. Then it's temporal artifacts, newspapers, mail, calendars, all from a consistent range of years depending on the house. Then it's biological, the gardens, and, as of last week, food in the refrigerators. Fresh food. Milk that hasn't expired. Bread that's soft. And each house tells a consistent story. One family per house. The artifacts don't contradict each other, they accumulate into a coherent portrait of a life lived. 206 Birch Lane is becoming the home of a retired couple who liked jazz and grew vegetables. 311 Spruce Court is filling with the possessions of a young mechanic with motorcycle magazines and a German shepherd's collar hanging by the back door. 414 Caldwell Circle belongs to a family with a daughter named Lily who grew up in the house between 1998 and 2004. None of these people exist. I've searched. Tomas has searched. There is no Lily Wynn in any database we can access. There is no record of any of the names that appear in the artifacts. The family in the photographs from 109 Pioneer Way, the ones we demolished, don't match any missing persons reports, any census records, any school enrollments. They are complete fictions. Except they are becoming more real every day. And here's the part that made me start this account. The part that made me stop being a professional doing a job and start being a person who doesn't know what he's involved in. It's the teardowns. We demolished 18 houses on Pioneer Way. Those were the first. They came down clean. Standard materials. No resistance. On Monday the 16th, We started on Birch Lane. First house, 201. The survey had flagged it as standard, 3-bedroom ranch, no hazmat, clear for demo. I ran the sequence. Interior strip team went in at 7 a.m. Tomas called me on the radio at 7:22. "Dean, you need to come see this." I went in. The house was, I don't know how to say this, full. Not full of the sparse, preserved 1963 furnishings we'd been clearing. Full the way a house is full when a family has been living in it for 30 years. The walls were covered in photographs, children's art, a mounted fish, a framed degree. The kitchen had spices on a rack, a fruit bowl, a grocery list held to the refrigerator with a magnet. The refrigerator was running. I could hear it humming. It had not been running during the survey. "This wasn't here on Friday," Tomas said. He was holding his recorder but not pressing the button. His hand was shaking slightly. I opened the refrigerator. Full. Milk, eggs, leftovers in Tupperware, a half-empty bottle of white wine with a rubber stopper in it. The milk was dated June 14th. 4 days ago. Current. The house smelled lived in. Coffee. Laundry detergent. A trace of perfume in the master bedroom. I called Gil. He came. He stood in the kitchen for a full minute without speaking. Then he said, "Tear it down." Gil. "Tear it down, Dean. This is what we're contracted to do. Whatever this is, it's not structural and it's not our problem. We are demolition contractors. We demolish buildings. This one is on the schedule for today. There's fresh milk in the refrigerator. Then pour it out. We have a schedule." We tore it down. The crew was quiet. The house came apart the same way every other house came apart: wood, plaster, nails, glass. But the smell lingered. That domestic smell. Coffee and detergent and someone's perfume. It hung in the air over the rubble pile for hours. That night, Carla came to my trailer. She'd been running material analysis on the salvage from 201 Birch Lane. "The wood is wrong," she said. "Wrong how?" "It's aged differently. The framing lumber is 61 years old, consistent with 1963 construction. But the finish carpentry, the shelves, the trim in the bedrooms, the kitchen cabinets, shows were patterns consistent with 30 to 40 years of use. Not age. Use. Someone opened those cabinets thousands of times. Someone leaned against that trim. The wear is real. That's not possible. No. It's not. And Dean, the carpet in the hallway. I checked. The original installation would have been the standard military contract loop pile we've seen in every house. But 201 had cut pile. Different manufacturer. And it was worn. High traffic pattern between the master bedroom and the kitchen. Someone walked that path for years. I asked the question I didn't want to ask: is it possible someone was living there? Actually living there. And we just didn't find them. Carla looked at me steadily. There was no one in the house when we entered. There was no one in the house during the survey. There's no evidence of entry or exit. The doors were sealed, the windows intact. And Dean, the town has been under satellite surveillance as part of the land transfer documentation since 2019. Peterson Holt has 5 years of quarterly aerial photographs. I accessed them yesterday. They show empty houses. No cars. No garden growth. No signs of occupation. Not in any frame. Then where is all of this coming from? I don't know. But I think it's getting faster. She was right. Over the next week, as we moved through Birch Lane, the acceleration was undeniable. By the time we reached a house for its final pre-demo entry, it wasn't just furnished, it was warm. Heated. Not from any system we could identify, the houses had never been connected to the town's oil heating infrastructure, but warm the way a house is warm when people are in it. 68, 70 degrees. Comfortable. And the artifacts were becoming more intimate. Personal papers in desk drawers. Diaries. Medical records. A child's report card, all A's and 1 B+ in science, with a teacher's note, "Lily is a pleasure to have in class but needs to show her work." Dated 2001. From Arniston Elementary School. There is no Arniston Elementary School. There was never an Arniston Elementary School. But on the original 1963 development plan, which I pulled from the Peterson-Holt Project archives, there is a parcel labeled Future School Site at the north end of town. It was never built. It's an empty lot. Or it was. Tomas went up there on the 22nd. Alone. Against my instructions, actually, I'd told the crew to stick to their assigned zones. He came back an hour later and found me at the equipment yard. "There's a building up there," he said. "What kind of building?" "A school." "A goddamn school, Dean." "Single story, flat roof, looks like every elementary school built in the 60s. 6 classrooms. A gym. A cafeteria. And it's got stuff inside. Desks. Chalkboards. Art on the walls, kids' art, construction paper turkeys, that kind of thing. And a plaque by the front door that says, Arniston Elementary School, established 1965. That building isn't on any aerial photograph. I know. The lot was empty when we arrived. I know. I went up there that afternoon with Carla. He was right. The school sat on the north lot as if it had been there for decades. The construction was consistent with 1960s institutional architecture. It was weathered, faded, but structurally sound. The front door was unlocked. Inside, the classrooms were arranged by grade, 1st through 6th. Each had 25 desks, a teacher's desk, a chalkboard with faint chalk dust in the trays. Art on the walls, yes, seasonal projects, handprint turkeys, snowflake cutouts. And on the wall by the main office, a series of class photographs. Every year. 1965 through 2007. 42 years of class photos. Children, real children, or photographed children, or whatever they were, smiling in rows. Getting older across the years, the way children do. The styles changing. The haircuts updating. The backgrounds shifting from black and white to color in the early 70s. I found Lily Wynn in the 2001 photograph. 3rd row, 2nd from left. A girl of about 9, dark hair in a ponytail, gap-toothed smile. The name label below her said, Lily Wynn. I found her in every photograph from 1998 to 2004. Growing up. Getting taller. Losing the baby teeth, then gaining the adult teeth. Wearing glasses in the later photos. She looked real. She looked like someone's daughter. She never existed. I took the 2001 photograph off the wall, physically removed it, carried it back to base camp, locked it in my trailer. It's here now. I'm looking at it. 23 children and a teacher, posed in front of the school. Lily Wynn, third row, second from left. The school is not on our demolition contract. It wasn't there when the contract was written. It doesn't exist in any survey, any aerial photograph, any land record. It appeared after we arrived. Gil has not addressed it. I told him. He looked at me the way he looked at me about the bookshelves, and he said, "Is it in our contract scope?" No. Then leave it alone. Focus on the residential structures. So we've continued. Birch Lane is done, 12 houses, demolished. We started Spruce Court yesterday. The houses there are already fully inhabited, warm, furnished, smelling of coffee and soap and fresh-cut grass from lawns that weren't there 3 weeks ago. Each one a family. Each one a life fully expressed in objects. We tear them down. That's the job. But here's what I need to say. Here's why I'm writing this, tonight, in my trailer, with the photograph of Lily Wynn's third-grade class sitting on the desk in front of me. This morning, I entered 414 Caldwell Circle for its final pre-demo survey. The house on the tear-down schedule for tomorrow. Lily's house. It was the most complete house I've entered in Arniston. The most lived in. The most present. The growth marks on the pantry door had continued since I last saw them. Lily, August 2005. Lily, August 2006. Lily, August 2007. The highest mark was about 5'3". The pencil grooves were fresh. The girl's bedroom was a teenager's room now. Posters on the walls, bands I didn't recognize, a movie poster for something that looked like it came out in the mid-2000s. A laptop computer on the desk, an old model, the kind with a thick hinge and a plastic shell. I opened it. Dead battery, obviously. But there were stickers on the lid. A sticker from a radio station, a sticker with a cartoon cat, a sticker that said, Arniston Class of 2011. On the bed, a stuffed rabbit, well-loved, one ear partially detached and resewn with the same imperfect thread I'd seen mending the blouse in the washing machine at 118 Pioneer Way. On the nightstand, a framed photograph. A family, a woman, a man, and a teenage girl with dark hair and glasses. Standing in front of 414 Caldwell Circle. The girl was holding the rabbit. I sat on that bed for a long time. This is someone's home. This is someone's life. The fact that they never existed doesn't make it feel less real. Every object in this house has been worn by hands, used by a body, chosen by a person who had preferences and habits and love. The rabbit has been held 10,000 times. The books have been read until the spine split. The kitchen smells like someone's cooking. And tomorrow I am going to tear it down. I brought this to Gil one more time, this evening. I told him I wasn't comfortable demolishing 414. He said, Dean, we've taken down over 30 houses. Each one has had this. Each one has felt real. None of the people in these houses exist. We've checked. There is no one to evict. There is no one to notify. There is no one being harmed. These are objects appearing in empty structures. We are contracted to demolish those structures. That's what we do. What if we're wrong? Wrong about what? What if they were real? What if they were real, and they lived here, and everything that says this town was empty, the records, the surveys, the satellite photos, what if those are what's wrong? Gil looked at me. Not with anger or dismissal. With something closer to exhaustion. Dean, you have a wife and 2 boys in Bozeman. You have 8 weeks left on this contract. You have $162,000 waiting for you when it's done. Are you telling me you can't finish the job? I'm telling you something is wrong. I know something is wrong. I've known since week 1. But wrong doesn't change the contract, and it doesn't change the schedule, and it doesn't change the fact that every structure we've demolished has come down clean, with no injury, no resistance, and no consequence. Whatever is filling these houses up, it doesn't fight back. It doesn't hurt us. It doesn't stop us. It just fills. And then we empty it. And then it's done. Is it done? For Pioneer Way, is it done? He paused. What do you mean? Have you gone back to the Pioneer Way lots? He hadn't. I could see it in his face. He hadn't looked back. I went back this evening, after dinner, alone. The sun was still up, it doesn't set until after midnight this time of year. I drove the crew truck down the access road and turned onto Pioneer Way. The lots were empty. Gravel pads. Exactly as we'd left them. 18 houses, gone. But on the lot where 109 had stood, the house with the family photographs, the ones I'd demolished 2 weeks ago, there was a mailbox. A standard rural mailbox, on a wooden post, with the number 109 stenciled on the side. It hadn't been there when we demolished the house. It hadn't been there when we graded the lot. I opened it. Inside, there was a single piece of mail. A white envelope, hand-addressed. The return address was 414 Caldwell Circle, Arniston, Alaska. The recipient was the Pruitt family. 109 Pioneer Way. Arniston, AK. The postmark was dated June 28, yesterday. I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of lined paper, handwritten in the same careful, rounded script I'd seen inside the book at 103 Pioneer Way. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Pruitt, I know you aren't here anymore. I saw them take your house down. I'm sorry I didn't come say goodbye before it happened. Mom says we might be next. She's been packing, but there isn't anywhere to put things. I hope wherever you went is nice. Your neighbor, Lily. I'm sitting in my trailer. The letter is in front of me. The class photograph is in front of me. The photograph from 109 Pioneer Way is in my jacket pocket. My phone shows full signal. I could call Renee right now. I could call Peterson Holt. I could call Gil. Tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., my crew is scheduled to begin interior strip on 414 Caldwell Circle. A girl who doesn't exist wrote a letter to a family who doesn't exist, mourning the demolition of a house that I personally tore down. She knows we're coming. She knows her house is next. And here's the thing I can't stop thinking about. The thing that isn't in any report, any protocol, any professional framework I've ever been given. If I tear that house down, and she stops existing, was she real? Is something that can write a letter and feel loss and say goodbye to its neighbors not real simply because no database contains its name? I don't know. I don't know, and I have 8 weeks left on this contract and a family in Bozeman and $162,000 that we need. And in the morning, I am going to walk into that house with my crew and my clipboard and my sequence plan, and I am going to take apart the home of someone who is afraid of me, and I am going to do it because that is the job, and because nothing in my training or my experience or my understanding of the world has prepared me to do anything else. The letter is in front of me. The handwriting is a child's. She spelled neighbor correctly. The demolition is at 7.